Hello, this is Mish, and welcome to this recap, review, summary, and an in-depth look at the movie Logan. If you're looking for a review to help you decide to go and watch Logan or not, this is not the right video for you. There are hundreds of reviews out there to help you with that choice. All I will say though, is if you're still undecided to go and watch it or not, I really did enjoy the Logan movie, probably my favorite X-Men movie of all time. So now let's move on with the in-depth look at a few subtleties from the movie and suggestions of historic events that we're meant to fill in the gaps with ourselves. So warning, of course this will contain many spoilers, but let's start with a brief recap of the story. So Logan and Professor X and Caliban are hiding out on the Mexican border. The reason is keeping safe, whilst Logan makes enough money to purchase a boat for further seclusion and safety. Along comes Laura and Gabriella, asking for Logan's help. Initially, Logan refused, but then we see the antagonist, Pierce, approaching Logan, who is hunting Laura as well. So Gabriella once again asks Logan for his help. This time, he accepts with a chance of money. Then we see Gabriella killed, and Laura hides in Logan's limo. Once again, we see Pierce approach Logan, trying to find Laura. And we see a fight ensue, and Logan, Professor X, and Laura join together and escape. Now, at this point, we learn the reason why Pierce is hunting Laura. The reason is, so we have a video that Gabriella has made that we find out that Dr. Rice of Transigen is recreating mutants for the purpose of controlled weapons. They find out that they can't control the children they have created, so they try to exterminate them all, as they now have a replacement for them, which is X-24, kind of a soulless soldier. Then we see Gabriella and a few other helpers and nurses that are in that organization, breaking out the children that they can, advising them to go to a safe location, which is Eden, on the border of Canada. The story from that point on really just follows Logan, Charles, and Laura along. We see Charles eventually killed, many innocent people also lose their lives. Laura does eventually meet up with the other children from the facility, but inadvertently giving their position away to the Reavers and the Transigen soldiers. So the final fight ensues, a chase as well through the forest, and of course ultimately Logan is killed. But Laura and her friends do survive and escape across the border. So many scenes and story arcs I have overlooked here, but I just wanted to recap. So now let's talk about the interesting, the vague, the fill-in-the-blank parts of this movie that I spoke about previously. So really it all revolves around what happened prior to how they got into the desert in a situation of hiding on the Mexican border. So now timelines and the X-Men don't really seem to get on very well together. So I'm taking this movie, Logan, from the concept it's following on from the 2014 movie X-Men Days of Future Past, when they fixed the timeline. So these are the parts I want to delve into, point out my theories, and get your feedback as well. That would be awesome. So what happened to the X-Men? As the end of X-Men Days of Future Past, things seem to be fairly stable, and what has happened to all the other mutants? We hear various snippets throughout the Logan movie as suggestions as to what has happened. So this is really an aggregation of all those points into a logical timeline that leads up to the Logan movie. So here we go. So Xander Rice progresses along with the Transigen project. To further this, he requires blood or DNA from other mutants. This ties in nicely with disposing of all the mutants that they can find. So we hear Caliban was instrumental in assisting the Reavers hunting down the mutants, and one would assume using the corpses of the dead mutants to fuel that Transigen project, hence the children. So that explains the limited amount of random mutants in the world. We also hear Professor X mention no new mutants are being born. A few theories are thrown around at that point, I guess evolution, God. That's really open to your interpretation, I think, on that one, as to why no new babies are being born that are mutants. So whilst this is going on, what happened to the X-Men? Why didn't they stop the killing of the mutants? Why are we seeing only two X-Men, Wolverine and Professor X? Now this all points to a few lines we hear here and there throughout the movie. There was an incident that happened, one of Charles' seizures. So has Charles inadvertently killed several of his X-Men comrades in a seizure called the Westchester incident? So Xavier's School for the Gifted Youngsters was based in Westchester. And we've seen the power of Charles's seizures. If they went on for a prolonged amount of time, they would kill, definitely. So perhaps the first seizure that Professor X had, before anyone was aware or had a suppressant or a relaxant for him to help him out, to help him stop the seizures, it could have gone on for a long time. So could we join the dots here and possibly say that the first seizure Professor X had, before anyone was aware, he inadvertently destroyed his students and most of the X-Men, which would also add up to one of the lines he was saying when he remembered doing something terrible, but seemed to not remember the details, but he remembered an incident. And in summary, Transgen, the project, makes the mutant children. Professor X takes out the X-Men and the school. Caliban helps hunt down the remaining hidden mutants. So for me, all those points added together really makes sense, but obviously it's a little depressing for this situation. But the thing is, now we can say, we know the general gist of what happens prior to the Logan movie story. Then, of course, the Logan storyline occurs. When will we possibly revisit the previous characters with time skips in the future, with future X-Men movies? So possibly going back in time and seeing those old characters again would be good. Or are the children that we have been introduced to within Logan going to be the future of X-Men? But when you really detail out all the events leading up to the Logan movie, I really think it adds even more emotion and impact to the characters within Logan. So when we're talking about Logan himself, Caliban, and Professor X. And especially when you think of the situation that they must have come from as well. It's pretty cool. It really adds to it. I really like that. So I'll leave it here. I hope you enjoyed this little video. This was my interpretation of a few points leading up to the story and a general recap as well of the Logan movie. So please share if you liked it, and thumbs up, and subscribe for future content from myself. That would be awesome. So until next time, this is Mesh, and I'll see you later.